Aimee Gallo, you are back for a third time. You are the first person I have had back on the podcast 3 times.
Are you serious?
Welcome. Dead
I
serious.
feel so special right now.
Hey, that's
Yay!
that's
Thank
because
you.
you and I jive so well,
You do.
and I love your brain. And the knowledge drops that you've had on every episode that we've recorded so far have been fantastic. The
Aw,
first
thank
one we
you.
did when it was Spirit of an Athlete,
Mm-hmm.
that one was all about understanding macros, micronutrients. We talked about the Gen X. What poster would you have on your wall? And
My
then,
Team Beat poster.
exactly, you got to have Teen Beat. We're showing our age, okay? And then the next one that we recorded, which hasn't aired during this recording, which I love that fact, is all about insulin. And
Mhm.
the analogy that you used for insulin was by far my favorite because you involved spacecraft. I'm so freaking here for this. You guys, if you haven't listened to either of those two episodes, go back and find those episodes. They are so worth listening to. And then today,
Learn with us, laugh with us. It's a good
right?
time.
Be entertained by us because today we're doing some myth busting.
Oh boy.
I loved that show, MythBusters.
Oh, MythBusters? I only
Yeah.
watched a couple episodes. I don't know why I never really fully got into it, but those
Oh,
guys were pretty entertaining.
that like if I could make my dream job, it would have been that, but on all the myths of how people heal their bodies.
Oh, that
That,
could be fun. Less
right?
explosions, though. So,
No, we could explode things. Trust me. I sat in they called it the pyro department, but when I first got on NASA's Artemis program, they
Mhm.
put me in the cubicles with all of our pyro people. I learned so much. There's definitely things you can do to explode the body. Not necessarily explode the body, but farts are explosive.
That's true. That's true. I think I learned that from cartoons. I'm glad to hear it holds up.
It does. It does. I have other stories for that, but we'll save those for another episode.
Superb,
All right,
superb.
let's do some myth busting
Let's
because
do some myth busting.
this is it's all around food and the food guidelines that the American population has been inundated with for the last 50 years.
70.
70? Is it really 70? Oh God.
Ansel Keys
Okay.
was the 50s girl.
Okay, so what was just get us up to speed. What was the first food guideline that came out? Because personally remember the food pyramid as the first one, and that
Oh,
was when that was in the 80s. So
no, Food Guide Pyramid came out in the early 90s,
was it
actually. We
okay?
had the 4 food groups in the 80s.
That's right. The 4 food group. Oh God.
Yep.
Okay, what
And
was before that?
that was actually, I mean, the official government making specific recommendations, including what to reduce, what to eliminate to stay healthy. That really was, I believe, in the 70s that first became like the, US government stamp of approval. We
That
had been
explains a lot.
well indoctrinated into being concerned about cholesterol before then, but it wasn't really until around the 70s that we got like the 4 food groups, and that was protein, carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables. No, fruits,
Oh,
vegetables, and dairy. If I remember, gosh, it's been so long.
right, the 4 food groups.
Yeah.
It
But
had to
that was
involve
like,
dairy.
beans and meat are the same. And I mean, but that's still how things are viewed from a government recommendation standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had the 4 food groups and then the food pyramid. And then what did we have?
And then the food pyramid finally disappeared
We got the
in the
plate, right?
early 2000s, exactly. And now it's My Plate,
My plate.
which
Okay.
is an improvement. My Plate is an improvement over the food guide pyramid because we stopped asking Americans to eat 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates and grains a day, and instead encouraged them to make a quarter of their plate from grains, which is a much more reasonable, healthy option than
All right. So
sticking a food
fact,
bag to your mouth and chewing on oats all day.
right? How do you eat 6 to 11? I can't even imagine what
Oh,
that
it was
looks like.
easy. It's super easy. It's
If it's vegetables, maybe.
no, no. I mean, it's actually it's actually much harder to eat 6 to 11 servings of vegetables than 6 to 11 servings of grain. I mean, think about it at the minimum, right? If you have 3 sandwiches made from Wonder Bread a day,
Oh,
you get your 6 servings of grain.
yep.
An ounce of grain is a serving. That's a slice of Wonder Bread. Real easy to
Oh,
eat 6 slices of Wonder Bread and still be hungry. Much
absolutely.
harder to eat 6 cups of carrots and be hungry.
As a kid, I remember being able to sit in front of the refrigerator. This is awesome food habits here. Sit in front of the food and open the package of Wonder Bread, eat a slice, and then grab the Kraft cheese in the plastic wrapper,
Yes.
unwrap that, shove one of those in, rinse and repeat. Just sitting in front of the fridge. Good food habits when I was a kid.
Good food habits. Good food habits.
Oh, how I've
I
changed.
thought a
Okay.
box of cereal was 2 servings, so, it
I
was fat-free,
mean,
so it was fine. It was fat-free,
there
and it
we
was
go.
fortified with all of the vitamins I could ever need in a day. So,
Exactly. And you got 2 doses of that, so it was good for you.
totally good.
Okay. All right, fact or myth? Science was used to develop the different versions of our government's food recommendations.
So to answer that question accurately, first I would need to understand what your definition of science is. Because there's a
Um,
lot of shit that passes for science. And most of what was used to create our government recommendations falls along the line of compost.
all right. I'm looking up the definition of science so that we can go
Exciting.
with what Webster tells us the definition of science is. Here we go. Science is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained.
It's
Number
where you get
two,
to it's
wait,
where you get to testing of theories that I feel like we really missed the mark there with our recommendations. Theories were not tested, folks. Theories were not tested. And many recommendations were made based on observation, not experimentation. And so we have compost.
okay. Yeah, that and statement in there, like it's got to be all three of those things: observation, experimentation, and testing.
Well, and you also want to validate your testing because that's the other thing with science in the way that science is set up, researchers are rewarded, i.e. they get grant money, they get kudos, they get their career established and secured by finding novel, new, interesting things. And so there is not incentive to check, retest, and confirm discoveries that have been made.
Mm,
And there's also not an incentive to publish negative results. So, for instance, you do an experiment and you find, oh, there actually is no harm in eating meat. That's not an exciting thing to publish. And so stuff like that doesn't get published. But what does get published is like, oh my God, meat's going to give you a heart attack. So,
red meat, specifically red meat.
specifically red meat.
Yes. Uh,
So the
okay.
bias is toward a finding over not a finding, and then the
Mhm.
bias is towards something novel and new over confirming what has been discovered or observed before. So we have a lot of stuff, and this is not just nutrition science. Like this is like our
This is across the board.
pharmaceuticals. It's a
Mhm.
bunch of it's a bunch of stuff that's out there that has not been rigorously validated before it becomes, common knowledge.
Well, when the government puts out a standard food guide, you would think that they would have done their due diligence and tested and discovered that this is exactly what the people need to understand to feed themselves.
If the government was working for the people and not the lobbyists, yes, that's what you could expect. And that is what you find in places like Japan, France, Europe, like many European countries. You find food education and food recommendations to be more more evidence-based and less industry-based.
Yeah, that's I would say across the board what we're seeing in America is, the 6 to 11 servings of grains. That was pushed by the lobbyists who were helping the agricultural people. The cereal companies pushed for some of these things. It's unfortunate that that's the way it rolls out. So should Americans specifically, because we have a global audience on Gutsy
Right.
Chick podcast, which I am honored to have. But the people in America, should they be listening to the European? Is it like, does the European Union come out with their guidelines, or is it like country specific?
It's pretty country specific, but there's not a lot of variation between nations. That said, I will say that it's not the US, because the US has so much influence. They've had a lot of um, exporting of American ideals, American
Hmm.
music, American cinema,
Yes.
and a lot of US ideas regarding food. For instance, here in Spain, where I'm currently residing, there is a recommendation to reduce cholesterol and saturated fat, and to that kind of like stay low fat. And um
Hmm.
that was really surprising and super disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that these countries would go more regionally also. Like, you would think if we're closer to the ocean, we're going to tend to be more pescatarian. We're going to
Sure, but
tend to have more fat.
that gets super micromanaging and nuanced, and nobody has that kind of money.
Okay.
Um, and honestly, I don't think that a lot of people are listening to government guidelines on food. Particularly in Europe, it's like, well, this is what my grandparents ate, and they lived into their 90s, so it's fine. Here there are people in their 80s and 90s walking around and doing their grocery store, going to the market and buying produce. I mean, it's here the elderly are mobile, and they are a very integrated part of society. And so it's much more difficult to erase history
Hmm.
and ancestral knowledge and understanding in a place like Europe than it is in the United States. And the culture here also has an honor and respect for history that we don't in the
No,
States.
we don't have enough history to honor and respect it.
We've got plenty of history we could learn from. And
Oh,
honestly,
yeah.
I think we do well to pull some of it out right now and take a look at ourselves in the mirror, but I'm just going to keep my mouth shut there.
Oh, the political route we could go down. Okay, we won't. All right. Myth bust number 2, salt. People should avoid salt. What do we know about this?
There is a tiny segment of the population that has a reaction to salt if they already have high blood pressure. High salt diets are not the sole cause of high blood pressure, and I would argue that they are not a cause of blood pressure, unless elevated blood pressure, unless you also have micronutrient deficiencies such as potassium and magnesium. What we have is sodium tends to constrict the blood vessels. Magnesium relaxes the blood vessels. And so when we're looking to maintain a healthy blood pressure, we want an appropriate balance of magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Your electrolytes, you want balanced electrolytes. When those minerals get thrown off, you're going to have problems. And I have, in private practice, I have had people reduce or eliminate blood pressure medications simply by eating more vegetables, because our richest source of potassium and magnesium in the diet come from produce, specifically vegetables. And what do we tend not to get enough of in our diet?
Vegetables. Nobody
Exactly.
likes vegetables because nobody doesn't. I think the big thing about vegetables in America is that nobody knows how to cook them properly. You go to
That's a huge
Europe and
part
they
of
know they got it down. I have had my favorite vegetable dishes in Europe. Italy, Spain. Oh my gosh. Yes. France.
it. And the base ingredients taste different here. That's
Yes.
something too that
They're more local. They're more
we
recently picked.
exactly. It's something that we don't realize. Everything is more recently more everything is fresher. I've gone to the butcher. I've ordered pork chops. And the butcher asked me, she said, are you planning on using this tonight or tomorrow? And I said, well, I was planning on having it tonight. And she told me, no, you can't do that.
It's got
Basically,
rest.
it's too fresh. The meat is too, like, you have to give it 24 hours to rest before you cook it. And I'm like, how is that even, holy crap. I've
How
gone
is
to the
that?
butcher. I've asked for liver. She's like, oh, hold on a minute. She goes in the back. She brings back 4 chickens with feet and head, not alive, slices them open, pulls out the liver for me so that I can get my 500 grams of liver to take home. I mean, it just blows my mind. And the food, the quality, the taste difference is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can get crap food in Europe. Okay,
Yes, you can. Yeah.
it's not all, it's not all rainbows and glory over here for sure. You can get meat with additives and sulfites in it at the grocery store. You can get plenty of processed foods if you want.
Yeah. You'll
But
find it if you want to.
but if you want something better than that, it's much more easy to procure, and it does not cost you an exorbitant amount to do it.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about every European country I've been to. It it costs a lot to get there, but once you're there, easy breezy.
Yeah.
Much cheaper than here in some
Unless you're
places.
in Paris or London.
Exactly. In some places, it's a little ridiculous. I had an
Yeah.
artichoke in London. It was by far my favorite artichoke I've ever had in my entire life.
Mm.
And I'm fairly certain that artichoke was like $25,
Ouch.
right? But it was so worth it.
Yeah, I
It was
got
so
5
worth
for
it.
$1 at the farmer's market this morning.
Right? Exactly. See,
Or not $1, €1, so about $1.10.
and I can't even find artichoke here.
Yeah.
It's not in season right now. We're in spring, but also it's hard to find here, which
Yeah.
is sad because I love artichokes. It's so much fun to peel those suckers off and just
It's one of my husband's favorite things to do.
it's like I don't it's fabulous. Anyways, okay.
So with regards to salt, if if you don't have high blood pressure, God, don't restrict your salt. That can lead to problems.
Electrolytes
Um,
are your friends.
exactly. Electrolytes are your friends. There's no need to restrict salt. If you do have high blood pressure and you don't like being on medication, first start eating some freaking vegetables. Aim to get 6 to 10 servings of vegetables a day, which is going to end up being roughly 3 to 5 cups cooked veg. And do that for 6 to 8 weeks. And if you're monitoring your blood pressure daily, you'll start to see it come down. And you do want to monitor your blood pressure if you are doing that consistently, actually, because you may need to go to your doctor and get your medication reduced, and that happens sooner rather than later.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing to me about this is the electrolytes and the fact that that's how our electrical system in our body operates.
Yeah.
Everything is moving through electricity. If we don't have those electrolytes on board, well, that electricity doesn't exactly move as efficiently.
Exactly. And our foods, we do a lot of fortification of our foods, but potassium and magnesium are very large molecules. If you've ever taken a magnesium capsule, like they're like
They're
freaking horse
huge.
pills. They're huge. It is a large molecule and it is too large to use in fortification, which is why we don't have potassium and magnesium fortified cereals and pastas and shit like that, because it just doesn't work well. Same thing with calcium. It's much too large a mineral to fortify well in a host of things like, like we do with the B vitamins and pastas. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, I have to ask. Your podcast. Tell us the name, and are these some of the topics that you cover on your podcast? Shameless
Blasphemous
plug.
Nutrition is a podcast where I discuss all things nutrition and I don't hold back on using my naughty language, which is one of the ways it's blasphemous. And with Blasphemous Nutrition, I live in a very nuanced area. So there are very few things. In fact, I can't think of anything where I draw a hard line and say it's this, not that. I live in a world of gray. And so anytime I open my mouth and speak, I'm going to offend somebody. And hence everything I say is blasphemous. It's just like, it's my curse in life, my lot.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is why we get along so well.
Yes.
It's the rebel in me.
The
Okay.
rebel in me honors and respects the rebel in you.
Same. Eggs.
Eggs.
The myth is that eggs are bad for you if you have high cholesterol, or eggs are bad for you because they'll cause high cholesterol.
Both of those are bullshit.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Bullshit. In fact, it's such bullshit that way back in 2015, the USDA very quietly, unceremoniously stopped advising people to restrict dietary cholesterol in an attempt to reduce heart disease, because after 65 years of watching it play out, there was not enough evidence to suggest that lowering dietary cholesterol lowers serum cholesterol or prevents heart disease. Guess what's still the
Ta-da.
number one killer in the country, even through the low fat 90s where we were suffering through fat free cheese and egg whites? Still heart disease,
Heart
folks.
disease. No way.
So cholesterol is not the culprit. And we can eat our eggs. And eggs, in their infinite wisdom, contain choline and other compounds that actually help clear dietary cholesterol from the body via the liver. And therefore, the cholesterol in eggs is effectively rendered moot. Even if it did stick to your arteries by eating it, it's effectively rendered moot because the choline and other factors in there facilitate the liver in processing cholesterol so that it does not accumulate in the blood and stick to the arteries.
If you have fatty liver disease of any type, would it be bad to eat eggs?
No,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just checking.
it's not, because the eggs don't, those are two very different things.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But
And in fact,
somehow those got
eggs,
related.
really?
Yes. I have several friends in my life and family members who have fatty liver disease, and they were told no eggs. And I was
I
going,
wonder if someone somewhere is conflating like extreme kidney disease and protein restriction with liver disease. That's the only
mm,
thing I can think of, because that is utter.
chaos.
Unless there's something that I am not privy to that has come out in research that I haven't looked at, but that doesn't make sense to me.
Those
With
aren't connected,
anything that I know about liver health,
right? Those aren't connected.
not connected.
Okay. All right.
I'm open to being wrong. If anybody has evidence,
Right.
send it to
Post it.
me.
Share it,
Totally. Post
please.
it, send it. I want to see it. But
Same.
I don't think that's a thing.
I mean, there's some dots to connect there. Uh, okay. Dairy. Dairy is the be all end all best thing for bone health. True or false?
There are so many lactose intolerant Asians out there who would prove you wrong in a heartbeat.
All day long.
All day long, multiple generations,
Yep.
hundreds of years.
I just interviewed Leslie Chen. And just so you guys know, my episodes do not go out in the order that I record them. Leslie Chen and I talked about, she is from China, and we were talking about her weight loss journey.
Mm.
And when she came to the US, she started eating ice cream. And her taste buds told her right away, like, don't eat this,
Oh,
because it
wow.
was so sweet to her. Not the dairy component, but the sweetness, the sugar level. And she continued to eat it for 30 days and gained 30 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then went back home, figured out how to lose the weight, and came back and said, okay, I've got the magic. And it all has to do for her with neuroscience. She's my
Mm.
neuroscience geek when it comes to this kind of stuff.
That
But
sounds like
yeah,
scary.
Asians are going to tell you right away, I can't do dairy. Are you kidding? So then what's the right source?
There is no, I mean, anything high in calcium can be beneficial. There's no one panacea food that's perfect for everybody. And that's the big takeaway, is that whenever anybody says this is the one thing y'all have to do, that's bullshit. Or if they say this is the one thing nobody should ever do, that's bullshit. There
Mhm.
is always an exception to every rule that's out there on TikTok or Instagram or wherever the hell you're at. So, you know, for people who do not have the ability to consume dairy, you can get calcium from leafy greens, although some sources like spinach contain high amounts of oxalates, which bind to the calcium and prevent it from being absorbed in the digestive tract. So there are mitigations that you can do to work around that, such as cooking the spinach. That helps break down some oxalates, and also using an acid like lemon juice also helps break down the oxalates.
Mm.
So you'll get more calcium from that spinach, but it is not a better source of calcium than milk. Broccoli is also an excellent source of calcium, does not have all those oxalates that spinach does. My favorite calcium source from the standpoint, not just of quantity of calcium, but absorption of calcium, is canned sardines with bones. Anytime that you can consume the bone of a small fish, you are getting not just calcium, but all of the nutrients your bones need, because you are consuming the bones of another creature. So it's like the whole package. Canned sardines are like mega superfood, especially for bone health. Prunes, even though they're not a rich source of calcium, contain an obscure polyphenol that is actually super helpful for bone health.
Not related to calcium at all.
But again, calcium is not just about bone health, and bone health is not just about calcium.
Yeah. But everybody relates those two because we've had
Because,
years and
well, I
years
mean,
and
the milk
years.
industry did a fantastic job of
Yeah.
teaching us that calcium is in milk and calcium is good for our bones. But it's not the only thing that our bones need. Our bones also, get this, need magnesium and potassium, as
No.
well as vitamin K, and a whole host of other nutrients. Like, there's just so many. Our body needs everything. Our
Right.
body needs all of the known vitamins and minerals, and also a lot of unknown nutrients that are found in unprocessed foods.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
when it comes to figuring out what's going to be the best thing for you and your body, rather than just following what an influencer says or even what the government says, you really have to take a look at what your family history is, right? If you are of Asian ancestry, consuming 3 servings of dairy a day may not work for you. Whereas if you are of, say, Eastern European ancestry or Scandinavian ancestry, that may not be a problem at all. You may really thrive on a high dairy diet. So you really have to look at, and your genetics can often guide you into a dietary pattern that is more beneficial and adaptive, for increasing your health than any kind of plate or pyramid or government recommendation. If you look at a foundation of unprocessed foods, look at what your ancestors ate, that can give you a lot of really good clues and a good foundation, a good starting place. And then you tweak it based on your personal health history, any diseases or maladies that you're looking to improve, and then tweak it from there, in terms of macros or specific nutrients to focus on.
Love it. Okay. Speed round.
Speed round.
Speed round.
Let's
You said that there are unknown nutrients in our food. How do you know this?
Because the field of nutrition is less than 150 years old. We don't know shit. Like we did not, we discovered there was an essential component found in butter in the late 1800s that we did not identify and name as vitamin A until the early 1900s. So
We don't know shit.
we don't know shit. We know how to prevent rickets and scurvy and beriberi and pellagra and, a lot of gross nutrient deficiencies that were very common in the industrial age as we started processing our foods and, living as our nutrition started to degrade. And so we know how to prevent some of those big nutrient deficiencies. We don't yet have the recommended dietary guidelines for the nutrients that we know are based upon preventing these acute diseases. We do not yet have any sense, any idea what nutrients are needed to thrive. That is totally unknown. We've not put our experimental brain power there. We have been focused on disease and avoidance and not reaching for thriving and growth and possibility. And because we've been focused on that negative aspect, we've really missed 100 years of health that we could be growing into.
Real thriving.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. That's huge. That's a clip. Okay. Oxalates. So this is for our nerdy biohackers. Oxalates have gotten a bad name recently. They're in raspberries that you mentioned, they're in spinach. People are starting to avoid these foods because it's bad for our aging. True or false?
Yes, you have wrinkles because you eat raspberries.
I have 3 raspberry patches at my house.
I do a greens challenge once a year for free where the goal is to eat green veggies every day for 30 days. I don't care what it is. I don't care how much. Your goal is just get some greens. A lot of people rely on spinach during that month because it's easy. You can throw it in a smoothie, whatever. None of them talk about aging faster during that month. Quite the opposite. They often notice that their skin clears up and is kind of dewy, and people are complimenting them on how youthful they are. So oxalates aging you is a load of bullshit. Now, I say that, and immediately I come to mind the alternative, the contrary example. For some people, oxalates create joint pain. That's going to make you feel old as fuck.
Yes. Don't do that.
So that's not
an experiment though, right? That's a personal experiment that you have to take on. Or your doctor, is there a way a doctor can even point that out to you? Like you have a problem with oxalates? Your kidneys would know that, right?
There are some tests. There are some tests that can be done. For instance, if you have kidney stones, right, they can kind of assess what the stones are compromised of, right? Same with gout. They can take a look and see like what are the crystals made out of. And there are some other tests that can assess oxalate breakdown issues. The issue is not, in my opinion, the problem is not the oxalate. The problem is that your body cannot process the oxalate. This is ultimately something that is likely to be rooted in the gut microbiome and an imbalance of beneficial bacteria that are responsible for facilitating and the breakdown of oxalates so that they don't get into the blood stream and cause issues.
Mm.
So some people, when they consume oxalates, they have, they have negative reactions in the gut, or it becomes systemic and it's, joint pain, skin issues, things like that, mood disturbances. But that ultimately is rooted in the gut and an imbalance in the gut. It's not that you are allergic to oxalates, it's that you have an inability to break down and process them because of an imbalance in the gut. And when you treat the gut and you rebalance the gut and you get rid of any bad guys who are living there, rebalance it with a lot of good folks, then most people find that they can actually tolerate things like oxalates and histamine producing foods and stuff much, much better, if not completely have their symptoms resolved.
Nice. Okay. We talked about eating like our ancestors, eating the bones. Bone broth has become a craze.
It's
Is
been a
that,
craze for a long time.
it should be a craze. Is it beneficial for us? And if so, how? And then we can talk about
Depends.
collagen.
It depends. I would say the boxed stuff that you get at Costco, I'm not too excited about that because, you open it up, you pour it out, it looks like chicken broth, behaves like chicken broth. When I
Yep.
do broth at home, I let it slow cook in my Instant Pot for 19 to 36 hours. Just depends on whether or not I forget about it.
Yep.
But
I did that yesterday. Turkey broth.
But for me, bone broth is a good quality bone broth if it turns effectively into meat jello in the refrigerator. If you can stick a spoon in it and the spoon is standing up, you've got yourself some good shit on hand. And what that is a collagen rich broth with a lot of amino acids in it that are very beneficial for the lining of the gut, very good for joint health. There's a lot of collagen in there. And that's where most of the benefit is going to come from. You can, particularly with longer duration simmering bone broths, extract some of the minerals from the bones, some of that magnesium, some of that calcium. It varies wildly. And so I would not rely upon it exclusively as a means to get those minerals. However, it can be a source of those minerals to some degree. I have seen some literature that suggests very little of the calcium from the bone and the minerals from the bones actually ends up in the broth, but I don't recall the details on how long that broth was simmered, if it was included in the literature at all. So I think it ultimately will vary wildly with regards to how much you're actually getting in either packaged or homebrewed. But the
I love
collagen,
that.
folks, the collagen, the protein, the amino acids, yes, 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 100% yes.
Right? Your body needs these things.
Yes, they
Uh,
do.
Collagen is a buzz right now also. Collagen,
Mhm.
in fact, I'm doing a deep dive right now on collagens because I've just recently been introduced to, it's called liquid biocell, and it's a matrix, and it's like the freaking fountain of youth at this point is what it seems like. I've been taking it just to experiment, see how it works in my body. I've noticed and I was an advocate for bone broth. Like, I have bone broth every week, but I don't have it consistently.
Right.
Collagen is great for hair, it's great for nails, it's great for skin, it's great for joints, it's great for all your connective tissue.
Yep.
Why would someone want to go into a lab and create a super collagen instead of just have bone broth?
Because they can.
If they
I
figured
mean,
it out, though, if they figured it out, if they have made something that we can't get, like the equation that I'm looking at right now between this liquid biocell and the collagen that I make is that I would have to drink 2 cups a day of my collagen to get the same nutrient density that I'm getting in 15 milliliters 2 times a day from this wonder collagen.
okay, so that falls under the fallacy that more is inherently better.
Yeah.
And that's a really popular one.
Yes, it
particularly in
is.
North America.
Yes. Every 12 hours, you must have your collagen in order for it to stay in your body and sustain.
Oh
That's the
God,
literature that they're
that's
pushing.
mm, I call bullshit on that. It's amazing our ancestors didn't fall apart by time they were 12 years old, if that's true. How did anybody fast for Ramadan and stay alive if that's true?
If
Like, come
that's
on,
true, right?
whatever. I don't believe it for a hot minute.
Nice.
So so super collagen, yada yada yada. I mean, there's a amazing compound in white willow bark it's a type of acid, and it's really helpful for relieving pain and reducing inflammation. And we discovered that and we turned it into a concentrated form known as aspirin. And if you take aspirin every day on an empty stomach, you're going to have some problems that you would not have if you were chewing on white willow bark every single day to reduce your pain and inflammation. So just because we can take something and concentrate it doesn't make it inherently better for us, and doesn't mean that it's something that, and also doesn't mean that it's safe to take every day, like I'm sure this company is suggesting that you do for the rest of time because they
Yeah,
make more money that way.
correct. Yeah.
So I am inherently suspicious and dubious um, that that's going to be a thing. Now, if somebody's unwilling to make their
Okay.
own bone broth, doesn't like the taste of bone broth, maybe that could be beneficial. Would it be more beneficial than getting a jar of collagen from Vital Nutrients or another company and putting a scoop in your coffee in the morning? I doubt it, but I don't know. I honestly
Is
don't know.
there
It's a new product. It hasn't stood the test of time yet.
That's right. That's the beauty of it.
Yep.
Is there a difference between powdered proteins, powdered collagen, and meat or bone?
Of course.
What's the difference? How does the body this is where the science is interesting because does the body process it the same?
No. Anytime
It
you take
can't.
something and you grind it into a powder so fine you can snort, it's not going to be digested the same.
What happens? Where does it lose its efficacy in the body? Where does it lose its potency in the
I don't
body?
think it's a question of potency or efficacy. I think it's an issue, at least when it comes to powders versus, like whey protein powder versus dairy food. It comes to a question of absorption and concentration. For some people, the absorption is beneficial. For some people, the rate of absorption is much, much quicker when it's coming from a powder, right? Your body doesn't have to your stomach has no work to do. If you just put some whey protein in some water, you shake it up, you drink it, your stomach's like, thanks for the break, buddy. Like lunch was easy today. Um, I'm a
Didn't
little
have to
bored
mull
because
it
I had
down.
nothing to do. And it gets absorbed in the bloodstream relatively quickly as compared to sitting down to a bowl of Greek yogurt, right? That's going to take longer to digest, which means, and again, the devil's in the details. What are you looking to achieve from that whey protein powder? If you've just busted your ass at the gym or gone for a hella hard run and you need to replenish, you want to get protein into your muscles as quick as possible, that whey protein can be a godsend. It can be awesome. If you are looking to lose weight and you're wanting to rely on protein to increase your satiation so that you're not so hungry while you're losing weight, whey protein may actually be a problem and a disservice for you because it's going to be absorbed more rapidly and not have the duration in the stomach that something like Greek yogurt would. And so the Greek yogurt is going to keep you fuller longer than whey protein and water would. So, what are you looking to achieve?
What's
There
the
is
goal?
a time and a place for many hyper processed foods like protein powder where they can be ultimately of service. And it just kind of depends on the use case scenario, right?
It's all goals based. Know your
Yep,
goal. Don't just
exactly.
cram protein down your throat because you had to hit a goal of a certain amount of protein. Did you
Well, and I
actually
mean,
need that source of it?
yeah, the other thing too is like for some folks who have had bariatric surgery or if they're on a GLP-1 agonist and their appetite is super low and they're trying or they just can't stomach a lot of food and they are trying desperately to make sure that they get enough protein that they don't lose muscle mass. Protein powders, again, like thank goodness we have them because
Hmm.
that is a major, major, major lifesaver for those folks with regards to their muscle mass.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Stomachs are very tiny, appetites are completely suppressed. Yes, I could imagine. That's an easy way to get a solid win.
Yep.
Love that point, which you had several of those great points on the last episode when we were talking about insulin. So you guys go listen to all the episodes that Aimee has been on. Aimee, what is the system that you use to help people that need your knowledge, need your help?
Can you be more specific by what you mean
Yeah.
by
Do you
system?
have do you have a way that you take people through the
Mhm.
process of healing themselves through nutrition?
Yeah, yeah, I do. We sit down, we talk for an hour after I've received a generous amount of paperwork from them about their personal health history, their familial health history, what their goals are, what they're looking to achieve. I go over that paperwork and then we meet and we sit down and talk. We establish goals and I kind of dig into their history, their tendencies, not just physiological tendencies, but also their personality tendencies so that I can better know how to help them and how to work with them. And then we kind of create what I call a beta plan, which is like, okay, we're going to start with this. Based on everything I'm seeing here, this is the direction we're going to go. This is where I think you're going to get the most bang for your buck. And, based on your family history, based on your personal history, based on what you've tried that's worked, that hasn't worked, and based on your personality. How does that sound? That's the direction we head. And then we tweak along the way, right? The GPS sets the course. Sometimes there's construction and we have to deviate our route. Sometimes the client slips in a pothole and a tire goes flat and we got to pause, repair the tire before they can keep going, right? It's a journey, to use
Mhm.
a cliche, but it's a journey that we take together. And as they're going along that path, they're giving me feedback on what's working, what's not working, and I'm using the 30 years of experience that I have to then say, okay, based on this, let's pivot this way, let's pivot that way, let's try this, let's go here.
Love it. Yay! All right, where can people find you? Don't spell it. It's in the show notes.
They can find me at Blasphemous Nutrition. They can also find me at vibrancenutrition.com.
Yay! Oh my gosh. Aimee,
We did
third
it.
time. Third time. We got to come up
Thank
with
you. I
another
am
one for next
super
year.
honored to carry that badge.
Heck yes. Ah, thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Hey, I just want to take a moment to talk to the women listening right now who are high performing, strong willed, self competitive, and maybe a little too good at pushing through pain. You know who you are. You've built a life by going all in, whether it's your career, your sport, or your business. But lately, your body's been trying to get your attention and not in a gentle way. It's screaming at you. If that's you, I created something for you. It's a private podcast called The Secrets of Body Whispering. And it's all about learning how to hear the subtle whispers your body is sending before they turn into full blown screams and symptoms. I'm sharing the exact tools I use with my private one-to-one clients and group coaching clients to help them heal faster, move through chronic issues, and reconnect to the part of them that knows how to perform without burning out. So if you're ignoring the screams and you're ready to actually listen to what your body needs through the whispers, click the link in the show notes to get access. Yay! You made it to the end of the episode. Good job. Now, go share this with your friends. Go like, subscribe, leave me a review. Let me know that you like what's happening here on the Gutsy Chick podcast. And if you're a female high performer with mysterious chronic health condition, go check out the Gutsy Chick quiz so you can find out what might be holding you back from healing. And if you want more on what I do with my clients and my blog and any podcasts that I've been a guest on, go to bodywhisperhealing.com. Thanks for listening.